Oh, how
Recording is in
polite.
progress. How exciting. It's like when you turn the microphone on, right? Like all the
Yes.
thoughts that, like everything you wanted to say, just like goes out of your head.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
So I took some screenshots of some conversations that I noticed people were having about the whole man versus bear thing. And when I first, like when it was first brought to the attention, I was thinking like, okay, just man in general versus bear, or are we talking like a random man? And then I found a post where somebody had said that the original question was, would you rather your daughter be in the woods with a bear or a random man? And then it kind of spiraled into like just women everywhere deciding man versus bear.
Hmm.
So I thought that was an interesting perspective that like I wasn't really understanding where it was originating from. So, what about
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, I did not look into that. I think what really stood out to me was like the different sides of it and like how many just men would come at it from, well, do you know the statistics of like how terrible a bear attack is? And a bear will rip your arms off, and like, certain kinds of bears will leave you alive while this is happening. But women, I think, are not saying like, I'm thinking of this out of practicality. I think women are saying like, hey, there's a problem. And
Right.
so I think like a big part of the disconnect is coming from people are getting defensive about it instead of getting curious. Like where the
Yes.
conversation goes is, well, that's dumb because all these reasons. When women are saying like, I have these feelings and like I have reasons for these feelings, right? Like almost everybody, like almost every woman I know has a story, at least one. And some of them
Mm-hmm.
are not terrible and some of them are really terrible. And like I think when it's met with defensiveness, then like we just buckle down, right? We're just like, this is my story. It's real. I need you to believe me because like I'm talking to people I trust sometimes, like I know somebody said they'd seen a story where somebody was like getting divorced over it. And like my
Mm-hmm.
knee-jerk reaction was like, wow, that's extreme. But then I really thought about it and I thought, well, they're not getting divorced because they disagree about this question, right? They're getting divorced because there's a disconnect there. She's saying there's a problem and he's saying, here's the facts and why it shouldn't be a problem. Instead of saying like, can you tell me about your experience? Can I like be curious and empathetic to what you've been through?
Yeah. And it goes back to the whole like, are we listening to respond or are we listening to understand?
Mm-hmm.
And so many times we are listening to respond to somebody and we're responding out of some sort of defensiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And in relationships, especially like in the case where, allegedly people are getting divorced over, this conversation, I thought about, the different relationships that I've been in the past and how I didn't feel safe enough to be able to talk through what I was thinking. And I would get very defensive with people in past relationships, and how blessed it is just to have somebody that gives you the space to have a different take on things and still be able to talk through your differences without meeting each other with anger or, defensiveness. And I'm not saying that my husband and I don't get into arguments and don't feel like the other person's opinion is crazy, but I feel like he gives me the space to say, wait, I need you to hear what I'm saying. And, at the end of the day, if we agree to disagree, then that's that. But so many times I felt like I've been shut down, or I would be judged with the way that I'm thinking. So, like, I'm immediately going to meet it with a defense instead
Right.
of listen to what the other person has to say, too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you're so right. That's like a game changer when you realize that kind of dynamic, I think, in your communication. And it takes so much practice. It's so hard.
It is
It's so hard.
hard.
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
But it's one of those things I think that like once you realize it's happening and you can recognize it, then it's a lot easier to start, paying attention and noticing when it happens
Hmm.
so you can, kind of back off of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, we've all heard, you know, the therapy way of handling those situations and be like, okay, well, let's take a time out. Let's take a breather. We aren't seeing eye to eye, and I'm feeling very angry right now. And I think that I need some space to cool off. But in those moments, it is not easy to say those things and
Right.
be able to realize, like, this person loves me, and this is not a war zone. So
Yeah.
I want to meet this person with love as well. The sun is like really coming for
It
me.
is. It's so pretty though. It's such a pretty pattern. Like nice
Oh
light
gosh.
flare. I think it was Mike Tyson who said everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. It's so easy to feel like you're prepared to go into that kind of situation or that kind of conversation, but then once the other person starts talking, it's just it's a free for all. It goes
Yeah,
downhill
that's
sometimes.
that's an amazing point. Yes.
I've felt like that with Josh quite a bit. I think we've worked a lot on communication and um yeah, it took a lot of conversations about how we have conversations. Probably just as many conversations about communication as like whatever issues we were having. Um and like still very much not perfect at it. I still get worked up. He'll still shut down from time to time. And sometimes, the opposite is true. But yeah, again, once we kind of realize, like, hey, this is what I do whenever I get really stressed in an argument. And I understand, like, this is what he does. And when he gets stressed in an argument, and I kind of have to hold space for that too. He's also still learning,
Yeah, and the the biggest thing that I've kind of caught myself on in those moments is that there is nothing stopping me from going back and saying, "Hey, I reacted badly to this situation. I shouldn't have said XYZ. I shouldn't have, raised my voice or whatever. And I'm sorry." So, and I think that whenever you realize that when you get into a relationship, whether it's a partnership, a friendship, a marriage, it's not perfect right off the bat. And you're two people that are consistently growing and changing and dealing with your own things and your things together. And so being able to understand that it's always a constant work in progress, and that at the end of the day, like I said before, that person loves you, you love that person, you're choosing to be in that relationship. So, you know, being able to say whether you're at fault or making amends or forgiving somebody else's missteps,
right?
that's really important. Not meeting them with consistent aggression or not speaking up if you don't feel safe in being your authentic self.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved what you said too about like this isn't a war zone. I I feel like I've had so many arguments in relationships where like we're both just trying to win. Like
Yeah.
win what? There's no prize here. Like it's win at the, at the what's the word I'm looking for? Like, at what cost? Like maybe it's a Pyrrhic victory, like I've won, but why?
Right.
Like I got nothing out of this except like to say that I won this argument. No, it's hollow, it's empty, it's not good for your relationship.
Yeah. And I think it like really comes to pride and ego, and in those instances where it is about winning, then it's just feeding that like sense of needing,
Yeah,
that validation of pride. And that's not where a healthy relationship, so that's not where a healthy relationship lives, is in those moments where one person is so focused on their pride. And it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to say
right.
sorry.
There's so much power in sorry.
Yeah. And it's okay to have two completely different perspectives. And
Hmm.
going back to the bear versus man thing, like, we are different people with different um histories. And I mean, I think if I was a man, I would feel hurt and, you know, um, just kind of dumbfounded if somebody that I cared about said that they would rather be in the woods with a bear than a man. If I was a man, I'd be like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
I think I'm a pretty
absolutely.
good guy.
Right.
Like, are you saying that a, wild beast is going to be better to be stuck with than me? But that's not the point.
Right.
And I think we're all just missing the point.
Yeah, I agree. And like I get it. Like as annoyed as I get sometimes reading some of those responses, I'm like, I don't need the statistics on bear attacks. Okay, I get it. But at the same time, like I understand the defensiveness. Like I would imagine like men in general are like, okay, even the ones who like understand and like don't argue about it, they're probably feeling like overwhelmed. They're like, okay, I understand there's a problem, but what can I do about it? what
Mm-hmm.
like what am I supposed to like I want to help, but it seems like such a big like overarching societal problem that I don't know what to do to fix it. It's not me. I can't fix me, but I also can't control what other dudes do. That's got to be really frustrating. And be
Yeah.
like scared for you, scared for your your the people you love and who are saying like I have this terrible story, like I'm really sad this happened to you and mad and I don't know. It can't be it's not a good place for them to be in either. Like as frustrated as women are and you know, trying to say like I'm scared. I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's absolutely right. And I mean, really, the beginning of fixing it is to understand the
Hmm.
perspective of the other person. And being able to give space to people who need to tell their stories and need to be validated. And that's a lot of the comments that I have seen is, women saying, well, if I got attacked by a bear in the woods, at least I know people would believe me.
Right.
Versus if I get attacked by a man, we have to really fight to defend ourselves. And
Right.
then, is the court case going to be thrown out because the judge did this and that? Or,
Right. We don't
is
want to
somebody
ruin
going to
his
accuse me
reputation.
of bringing it on myself?
Hmm.
And I think we're missing a, a big point too, in that, you know, I remember when I was teaching, I think the statistic that they told us was like one out of every four female that we will encounter at any time has been a victim of some sort of sexual assault or molestation or whatever. But one out of every six male has also had the same experience. So um, I don't know. I think we're not talking about what's happening to men. And I think men aren't talking about what's happening to men. And so while we may feel like we're alone on an island, we're not. And I worked with students, male students who had been raped by male students, and they weren't believed either. So, it's there are a lot of things that we need to fix, and we need to be able to come together and understand that something needs to change. And together we can do that. We don't need to isolate ourselves.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, those statistics are those are depressing. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like it can absolutely be hard to be female and uh like sometimes we get that, a bad rap or whatever because, like, oh, you're over emotional and you always need to talk about your feelings and stuff, but it is heartbreaking to think that like half the population is taught if you if you feel your feelings, you're not really a man, you're not really tough, you're weak. And it's not just a detriment to them, it's a detriment to like all of society.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a great illustration here. Like this bear versus man thing is not us versus them. Like this is it's a I'm assuming it's a thought experiment to like raise awareness of, an issue that I think probably everybody is aware of now. This is coattails of Me Too, you know, um, but oh, I just hate how like divisive it is.
Yeah. And like I think too, like my first thought about this topic was, as a woman in society, I have to live by certain standards, or I've been told to live by certain standards. And those standards have led me into some pretty dark corners with some bad people. And if I were in the wilderness, those standards don't apply anymore.
Right.
Like I would feel more confident defending myself against a man in the wilderness than a man at my job, you know, or a man who is friends with my parents. And you have all of these different, P's and Q's you have to mind as a woman. But out there, like that's now my turf, and I will fight to the death.
That's a perspective I hadn't really thought of. I was thinking of, people are like, well, you know, I'd seen a lot of people talk about like, well, the bear's supposed to be there. The bear lives in the woods. What's the man doing there? Like no witnesses. But I hadn't thought of it from, also I'm in the woods.
Right? Why
So
the hell am I there?
right. I don't have to like politely decline to hang out with this dude with a smile. So like he doesn't get mad and
Exactly.
like punch me in the face. Like I can just be like, no, F off. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know how to build a fire. I hope you do too, because you're not sitting by mine.
Right. Oh man. Be our own Katniss.
That's right.
But yeah, that's just on the surface. That's not the real question.
Right. Yeah. It's so emotionally charged though. I get it. It's hard to step back. Like I've literally been thinking about this for like a week and a half. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And I feel like I have like had a spectrum of thoughts about it.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's what people need. Like, just
Yeah.
sit with the question and think about other people's thoughts, other people's answers, other people's opinions, and at least try to empathize with their perspective. That's all
Right. Yes, that's right. Just
we want.
calm dialogue.
Yes.
Yeah, I've asked a lot of people in the past like week. And what was most interesting was I asked my daughter, 11, and she hasn't really had any. Oh, she stays home a lot. She doesn't go out a lot. Her answer was a man, like straight up. And I was like, wow, that's really powerful. Like, you're finishing like fifth grade now. I'm curious like how that will change. And I didn't want to like get into it because like, yeah, absolutely. I want her to be smart. I want her to be aware and safe and all of that. At the same time, I don't want to scare her. I think
Yeah.
about how a lot of people kind of grow up with this idea of like, your parents tell you, don't do this or you'll die, or the world's a terrible place, and you go out with that belief, and I don't know, maybe we kind of, your thoughts create your beliefs maybe. And yeah, things are crappy because we expect them to be expect people to be awful, and we're not surprised when they do it. So maybe we don't, maybe we take it because we've just taken it for granted that you know, people say mean things and get away with it all the time, or people do horrible things, and you know, the justice system, fails left and right because of, you know, money or circumstances or connections or whatever. And we're just like, well, it's because the world's really shitty. We just know the world is awful. But like maybe if we didn't raise our kids that way, I mean, I'm not saying it's all about how we're raised. Like I know people have terrible experiences, but like, if we maybe put in a little bit of effort to say like, okay, that's awful. Why is that awful? Why is that okay?
Yeah.
Maybe it shouldn't be.
And I think too, anytime I think about how like kind of that doom and gloom, the world is awful, look at all the bad news, I immediately kind of go to this thought of nobody's telling us the good news. So, yes, we're hearing about cases being overturned or people getting away with doing things, and, the victim isn't believed for a myriad of reasons. But what about all the cases that are working in their favor?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know that's not the point either. We shouldn't be in a world where it has to go to like a justice system. Like we should just be able to live in a world where people are respectful of other people's boundaries.
Right. Yes.
That is not rose-colored glasses. That's not the world that we're living in. And I know that that is to be true. And I mean, I was in a court case about, you know, somebody who was raped, and the man was defended by a woman, and I was enraged that this woman was trying to back me into a corner and make it out to the victim was lying. And I just really wanted to scream at her and say, how dare you not side with this person who is saying that he did these things to her? How dare you, as a woman, sit there and defend this man? Um, so, you know, there are bad people on both sides.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's definitely not a gendered thing.
No,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but
So
the
I had a
victim
family.
was heard. So,
That's good. That's awesome.
yeah, justice was served.
That's awesome. I actually had a family member who was accused of doing something like that, and it was a lie though, and they ended up like sentenced to a couple of years in prison for something they didn't actually do.
Yeah.
And
And that has to be scary for a man too. Like, would you
yeah.
rather be put in the woods with a random woman or a bear? Like,
Right. Right.
I'm sure men could, there are men out there that could have the exact same argument.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like, if you go to root cause that, it's kind of like why don't we believe each other? Why don't we believe people? And then why are there people who lie about that? Like what did they gain from that?
Mm-hmm.
Dark. That's dark.
Hmm.
I don't know the answer to those questions.
I don't either.
In the
Therapy
case of my
is a
family
good
member, it
solution.
was coercion uh to coerce money from the school system because it happened to a minor, or well, it claimed it would happen to a minor, but it did not happen. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But I guess like if we go root cause that, then like they were so desperate for money, they were willing to like put their child through that. And that's so sad. That's so sad. Nobody should have to feel like they have to ruin another person's life in order to survive.
Yeah. And to that case, like, what are you then teaching your child? You're just going to perpetuate this, theory that if you need something bad enough, it doesn't matter who you hurt along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good point.
I don't know if you can hear my dogs or if
I
this
can't.
noise suppression. Oh, yes.
Good noise suppression.
Oh, man.
Okay, heads up, it's telling us we only have 7.5 more minutes in our meeting.
Hmm.
Just a heads up.
Hey.
We might have to switch to like Google or something. Google Meet. We'll see. Well, we did it, I think. We saved the world.
Yes. Just give each other space.
That's right.
That is
Listen.
the answer.
Be a good listener.
Be a good human.
That's right. That's right. To be helping each other, not hurting each other. Yeah. So let's see, what's a good question? What is like the funniest thing you saw in the bear versus man? Like, did you see anything that like made you laugh?
No.
No. I saw one. The one that made me laugh was I saw somebody say, I would choose the bear because the bear would not, I would not have to say thank you to the bear for contributing to our mutual survival. That one made me giggle.
Oh, man. I did see one where it was like the beast versus oh my goodness. What is his name? Gaston. There we go. And it, you know, showed Belle with the beast, and it was like, women have been choosing the bear since 1992 or whatever it was.
That's pretty funny.
1989. Who knows when the movie came out?
That's a good one too.
And like it, I don't know. I love the Outlander series. Um, I've listened to all of the books, and Diana Gabaldon is an amazing writer, and she's very vivid in her writing. And in one of the books, there is a bear attack, and it's very, very vivid and like I I was driving when I was listening to this book and I had to pull over. I
Ooh,
like pulled into the park and just had to sit with it and cry because it was just so traumatic the way that she described it, the way that she like the bear came out of nowhere and like just grabbed this woman and um so that was where my mind went was to her writing because she also has stories, you know, within her novels of women being attacked by men. So like my mind instantly went to her books. Like, you know, I can imagine a bear attack
yeah, that's
and it
scary.
wasn't pretty.
No, that's
Which is
terrifying.
where that's when I was like, if I was in the wilderness, then I have no rules. Like just to defend myself
Right.
is the rule. So
Right.
I think I'd rather take on a man.
That's
200 pounds versus like 800 pounds or
right.
however big
Right.
bears are. Like,
Right. Wow. Yeah. I yeah, my mind kind of went to Cocaine Bear. I don't know if you've seen it.
oh, John
Um,
would be pleased.
oh, it's
But
too
I have
much.
not seen it.
Too
I
much. It's too much. I don't like horror. Like this like comedy I don't. Nope. Nope.
oh gosh.
Josh made me watch it. He's like, it's so funny. And I'm like, it's funny, but no, just no.
Yeah.
Um,
I did not watch it. I was told to watch it and I don't like drugs and I don't like horror. So I'm like, I
not
don't want to see
nope.
those two together.
No.
And I would feel a lot of empathy towards the bear. So I don't want to like
Yes.
go down that road.
Yes. Yeah, definitely not the movie for you. It was not the movie for me.
No.
We've got like 2 minutes left, it said, and then I'm guessing it's going to kick us off of here. Any other thoughts?
I don't I don't think so. Yeah.
Cool. Sweet. All right, I'm going to stop recording.
Okay.